The accident occurred in the early morning of April 26, 1986, when operators took actions in violation of the plant's technical specifications. Operators ran the plant at very low power, without safety precautions, and without communicating the procedure with safety personnel. The 4 Chernobyl reactors were pressurized water reactors designed to
produce both plutonium and electric power.
They also were highly unstable at low power, and that accelerated nuclear chain reaction and power output if the reactors lost cooling water. These factors all contributed to an uncontrollable power surge that led to Chernobyl's forced destruction. The power surge caused a sudden increase in heat, which ruptured some of the pressure tubes containing fuel. The hot fuel particles reacted with water and caused a steam explosion, which lifted the 1,000 metric ton cover of the top of the reactor, rupturing the rest of the pressure tubes, causing a second explosion and exposing the reactor core to the environment.
The disaster released at least 100 times more radiation than the atomic bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Much of the fallout was deposited close to Chernobyl in parts of Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia. More than 350,000 people resettled away from these areas, but about 5.5 million remained. Contamination with cesium and strontium is of particular concern, as it will be present in the soil for many years. After the accident, traces of radioactive deposits were found in nearly every country in the Northern Hemisphere, but wind direction and uneven rainfall left some areas more contaminated than their immediate neighbors. Scandinavia was badly affected, and there are still areas of the UK where farms face post-Chernobyl controls. The number of people who could eventually die as a result of the Chernobyl accident is highly controversial. An extra 9,000 cancer deaths are expected by the UN-led Chernobyl Forum, but it says most people's problems are economic and physiological, not health or environmental. Campaign group Greenpeace is among those to predict more serious health effects. It expects up to 93,000 extra cancer deaths, with other illnesses taking the toll as high as 200,000. The most obvious health impact is a sharp increase in thyroid cancer. About 4,000 cases of the disease have been seen, mainly in people who were children or adolescents at the time.
Survival rates are high, and only 15 people are known to have died. But Greenpeace says there could eventually be 60,000 cases of the disease, among 270,000 cases of all cancers. The Chernobyl accident led to many political consequences, along with the health and environmental issues. Firstly, the accident prompted nuclear energy policy to arise as a significant public issue. It also led to a distrust and unease between Soviet citizens, specifically to those in the evacuated and nearby areas, and President Gorbachev's regime. Doubt was cast on his legitimacy and ability to respond to the incident and protect the Soviet citizens. It caused aggression to all secretive politics. After the incident, he was criticized for hiding and delaying the relay of crucial information to Western civilizations. The combinations of a loss in moral lives and finances was led many to consider the Chernobyl accident to be one of the most comforting events that eventually led to the fall of the Soviet Union. What are the implications of using nuclear energy? Nuclear energy has several implications, most of which are its energy plants, which need to be seriously and cautiously taken care of to prevent any radioactive leak. Its radioactive waste needs to be carefully taken care of. The plant can overheat and, just as the Chernobyl case, explode, resulting in a different horribly dangerous result for the environment and population. Do you consider nuclear energy to be clean energy? Focusing on nuclear energy, we can say it is actually a clean energy. Like everything, nuclear energy has pros and cons. It has low pollution, low operational cost. It is said that nuclear energy is not as harming to the environment because of its low emission of carbon dioxide. and does not actually contribute to global warming. So, from a pollutant point of view, we could say it is clean and it is seen as one of the most environmentally friendly ways of energy.
Are you aware that there is a nuclear energy plant in Mexico? We were not quite actually aware that there is a nuclear energy plant in Mexico, but we kind of expect there to be one, because almost all developed or developing countries are known to have one, because of its high demand
of being the third most used way of energy worldwide.
Where is it? It is in Alto Lucero, Veracruz. Do you think it is safe? No, we don't think the plant is safe. There may be a radioactive leak or an explosion, and it will put a lot of people in danger. Plus, the physician mathematician Bernardo Salasmar said that the Laguna Verde plant was one of the most insecure worldwide.
Do you agree with the fact that there is a nuclear energy plant in your country? We don't agree with having this nuclear energy plant in our country, even though it is the only one in Mexico, because we believe it is very dangerous to have a nuclear energy plant, since a single explosion, accident, or leak could have very bad consequences that can endure several years for a country, seas, and people.
Could the Chernobyl 1986 nuclear disaster have been prevented? How? Yes, it could have been prevented. It is said the in-charge people during the test that caused the disaster decided to turn off the safety systems and loads which could certainly have protected the plants as well as the outside environment from the errors. One of the main errors was the control roads were too short, as well as a change in sign in the expressions used VC. It is believed by different researchers that studied the case that automation could have been a proper solution. In this case, establishing a limit cannot be crossed to avoid this accident, which mainly occurred because of the bad decisions making and abuse of the limits
That could and could not be reached.
Once the explosion happened, was there any way to stop the radiation spread and its pollution? Yes, there were, and some countries implemented them. The reactor was filled with 5,000 tons of boron, dolomite, sand, clay, and lead compound and thrown for a helicopter flying about the reactor. There was also a control with animal food and lactose production. The Soviet Union was one to take serious measures to protect its people by keeping the grass given to animals, care and treatments, only allowing certain foods, giving clean pastures to the farms. A special department dedicated to control those explosions worked together with firefighters to turn off the flame fire.
Do you think that the radioactive pollution generated by this disaster reached Mexico? The only way it could have affected Mexico somehow was if a person affected by the radioactivity in Chernobyl mixed with a Mexican person, but that would be more of a personal effect, meaning it would only affect that person or people. But otherwise, the radioactive pollution reached a large portion of Europe, 200,000 square kilometers, but it did not reach any part of America, therefore not reaching Mexico.
What are at least four environmental consequences in a global scale of the Chernobyl 1986 disaster? With the Chernobyl disaster, there were a lot of consequences. Some of these are the casualties of the explosion and the casualties that radiation took. For example, it caused a lot of cancer, like thyroid cancer. Some other consequences are the 4,300 square kilometers that are private in more than 130,000 square kilometers that are contaminated. Also, radioactivity in soil and food was severely contaminated, but it has reduced because of natural decay. Another main consequence is the greatly contaminated groundwater and downstream ecosystem by CS and SR. What are the environmental consequences in a global scale of other nuclear disaster and use of nuclear weapons? With the Hiroshima and Nagasaki nuclear bombing during World War II, there were a lot of consequences, like the 129,000 to 240,000 casualties. The first deaths occurred with the bombing and destruction, but over the next few years, many others died because of burns, radiation, and cancer. In those two cities, having leukemia became a 46% of probability, in this taking the lives of thousands of people, along with thyroid and breast cancer. What do you think and feel about these consequences? What would be a solution proposal for this situation? We think that the US felt the bombing was a necessary need to make to finally end the war, but we believe that the US was not expecting such lasting consequences. A proposal to avoid this to be a future problem again is reducing nuclear weapons worldwide and searching for alternative solutions for peace instead of reaching out to violence.
How did we feel working like this? Did we like it? Was it difficult? What did we like the most of working with my teammates in this form? It was a new experience for all of us working with people we don't personally know at all. It was a different teamwork experience because of the need to communicate via mails or messages. We had to be constantly explaining our different ideas clearly for there not to be any misunderstanding to get to an agreement. There had to be a strong compromise in getting things done and divide the work into fair parts we could each do. We had to adapt to the way each of us worked and develop ideas. It was an interesting to do math project in this way. We all took this as an experience of working from far that is going to be useful for all of us to use in the future.
A real-life example of exponential growth and decay is the growth population of Mexico. Mexico's current population is 129,619,536, according to the United Nations estimates on October 14, 2017. Mexico's population growth rate has dropped to 1% in comparison to other years, so we can use exponential decay to show how the population production hasn't been as strong as the past years. We can also calculate the growth population of Mexico with the following formula. P equals to P0 E exponential RT. P0 is equal to initial population. P is equal to final population. R is equal to rate of population growth, and T is equal to time.
Another example of exponential decay could be the price of a car, because the value of the car decreases by a percent each year or each kilometer used. We can see this with the formula P equals P parentheses 1 minus R parentheses exponential T. Lowercase p equals initial price, P equals final price, R equals rate of decay, while T equals time. For example, a car that has $500,000 as its original price, with a rate of 12%, what would it be the price of the car after 2 years? You can find the answer with the following formula. P equals 500,000 parentheses 1 minus 0.012 to the square. P equals 500,000 times 0.7744. You obtain this answer of the 744 by multiplying the parentheses times the square. Finally, you get P equals $387,200. That would be the price of the car after 2 years.
I think this project really helped us to learn that history and math are not separate, that they can relate in a certain way, and I really enjoyed it because it was also a group team. We collaborated with Campo Alto, and it really helped us to learn to work in teams, and I think that this project was really helpful for every member. We all learned something new. For example, I learned more about the Chernobyl disaster. I really didn't know much about it, so now I learn how exponential functions can relate to that issue.
Yeah. So I think this was a really good project because it was a collaborative project. So I really enjoyed like trying to communicate with the other Prepa Tec by Alto, and also we can see that mathematics and history can relate. Like in this time, Chernobyl disaster relate in certain way with mathematics.
I think this was a great project because we got the opportunity to apply math in real life situations and problems.
and we got the opportunity to work with people who were far away, but we got things done with technology as things are done nowadays.
I really like this project because it helped us understand how exponential growth and decay are related in our daily life and with real world problems that happen all around us every day on a daily basis. I really like this experience because it was a new experience for all of us and it helped us understand how society works nowadays because now the projects from work or school projects are done via FaceTime, via messages, and you have to communicate from far but get things done. So I think this experience will help all of us in the future.